What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. In this episode, I am joined by Robert McCall. We had a little Skype interview and got to talk about all kinds of different things disc golf related. Robert McCall is the team manager from Team Dynamic Discs. He is also one of the co-hosts of the Disc Golf Answer Man podcast, which I'm a big fan of. So I got to pick his brain and just kind of talk disc golf with him for a while, which was really fun. Thanks again to Robert for being on the show. Thanks to all you guys for supporting my channel, listening to the podcast, watching the reviews, watching the other content. I appreciate all you guys. If anybody has any suggestions for any beginner tips and information type videos that you'd like to see me produce, please let me know in the comments below. I'm looking for new ideas of stuff to help people out with. If there's something you're unfamiliar with or something that maybe you were unfamiliar with when you just started out that I haven't addressed on the channel, please leave that information in the comments below on this video or really any of my videos, and hopefully it's something I can make. So without further ado, let's get into the interview with Robert McCall. All right, guys, we're here with Robert McCall. First of all, thanks a lot for being on the show, Robert. I appreciate your time. I just wanted to kind of pick your brain about some of the things, some of the ins and outs about being the team manager of DD and how all that stuff works.
Sure, no problem, and happy to be on with you, man. It's weird, like, hearing you call into the show all the time and, you know, talking with you on Smashbox and stuff like that. So good to put a face with a name, and yeah, let's chat it up.
Right on, yeah. Essentially, this is just an elaborate ruse for me to have my own personal Disc Golf Answer Man experience where I can just have you, I've got you all to myself. I can ask all the questions I need. I don't have to try to put any funk intros in here.
I like
none
it.
None of that needs to happen.
Bobby.
Right on. So what's like your personal background for how long you've been playing golf?
Sure. I started playing disc golf in 2008, so I guess I'm on my 10th year right now.
That's really close to me, too. Yeah, it's really close. Yeah.
Nice. I started playing when I was in college. I guess I had played once or twice in high school, but certainly nothing that I considered, you know, taking seriously or practicing or anything like that. Got to college, a buddy of mine had a few discs, and I was always decent at tossing a Frisbee around, and we had played Ultimate for fun, things like that, and so he said, hey, let's go play disc golf, and I was like, yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to smoke you at it, because I'm an intensely competitive person. And I think he beat me by probably 20. He steamrolled me and obviously never let me forget about it. And so I told him that day, I was like, I don't care about this stupid game, but what I do care about is beating you at this game. That's all I care about. And so, you know, we kept playing, and our scores would get closer and closer until I started beating him, and then I'd beat him more consistently and things like that. And basically, by that time, I really did enjoy it and was hooked. Really loved watching a flight of a disc and kind of understanding how to manipulate that. I think it was really fun to watch. And then so I started playing little mini tournaments, thinking, you know, I could just go walk in and win like that, and obviously that didn't happen either. And so I was like, all right, I like being competitive, but I'm going to play this at least until I can win one of these. That's how that got started, and then started playing tournaments, and yeah, that's that. Now we're here. When you
look back on that first round, because I'm the same way, where like I threw an Ultimate disc around a lot, you know, and I remember the first time trying to throw a driver, like a Valkyrie, I think it was.
That's the same for me.
A pretty, by all accounts, a mostly beginner-friendly disc in general, but still, just having it be so different. Like, do you remember just being, like, really confused at how it was reacting to your throw? Or, like, because I remember just being like, what is this thing doing? Like, it's just nothing like the Ultimate disc I was used to.
That's exactly my experience, too. Because, yeah, I mean, the weight on disc golf discs is, you know, I don't know what percentage it is, but I would guess probably 80-ish% around the rim. And that's vastly different than an Ultimate disc. And so I was used to just kind of popping my wrist and having it go straight and not having to worry about any stability or more arm or hips or anything like that. And yeah, so when I threw it the first time and it just went to the left, I was like, "This is stupid, man! Like, I don't even like this dumb Frisbee."
Yeah, that's why I always recommend that people start with putters.
Same.
Having gone through that, you know, and now like just looking back on it, like, man, if I just had like an understable more straight flying putter, it would have been that much more familiar to start out with. You know what I mean? It would have been able to kind of get a feel for it sooner. Because like my ultimate thing that I really get frustrated when I think about is like somebody getting out there with like a destroyer or something like that, and then throwing it, having no ability to throw it straight or accurately at all, and then just being like, forget this and moving on and never even trying it again. I feel like that's a pitfall that probably happens a lot, and I try to prevent that best I can. Just trying to recommend people start with even mid-ranges are fine, but I still think a putter is probably your best bet.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, if you start off with a driver because, maybe you've thrown a putter and you're like, I want to throw farther, so naturally I throw a driver. It can be so frustrating. You're never going to get it up to the speed that it needs to fly correctly. And so you compensate by implementing bad form in different places. And it just makes the sport not have as much longevity for you. And so I'm teaching a 6-week class to teachers and educators in the area, and I only bring out putters. We don't even touch drivers or mid-ranges. We just throw those, and that's how they learn. And it's a lot more encouraging when you can make that fly at least sort of close to how a frisbee would fly for you. And so once you get the fundamentals on that, you can basically throw whatever disc you want to. Once you can throw a putter flat and have it fly flat, finish flat, things flip it up, all those things.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you're from Texas, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that where you first played all your beginning golf and stuff like that?
It is. It is. I spent most of my childhood through graduating high school in Austin, and there's beautiful courses in Austin. I love them, but I didn't really play there. I was only started playing when I was in college. That was in Abilene, Texas. Abilene's about 2.5 hours west of the Metroplex, Dallas-Fort Worth area. And it's a population of about 100,000 people or so. And I guess now they have 3 courses they're working on. No, they have 4 courses, working on a 5th, a championship level one. But, all these cool, wooded courses in Austin with these beautiful shots and tight tunnels, and then in Abilene, where I learned, it was just pretty wide open and a lot of hyzers, a lot of wind, and so those were the parts of my game that I was really good at to start. But I had a rude awakening when I went to my first tournament, which was in the DFW area at Turner Park, where you kind of have to carve some lines. It's not super wooded, but your shots are forced by some trees. And I didn't even know what to do about that. And so I had to become more well-rounded really quickly because of that kind of tournament experience. So that was cool.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. My first round ever was on a course called Dabney State Park, and it's like the front 9 is mostly open, but there's plenty of elevation to deal with, and there's a water hole that I don't think I even played. I think we just walked past it, because it's one of those shots where if you yank it left or right, it can hit a branch and just splash right in the middle of this pond. And so I don't even think I played that one. But then the whole back 9 is pretty wooded, and it gets really thick back there. And then there's a cliff, like big slope off the left-hand side. So as a right-hand backhanded thrower, if you clip anything on the left-hand side of a tree, you just go soaring off the edge of this dirt cliff, and it gets really frustrating. But at the same time, it was also kind of a cool place to start, because that course maintains one of the most challenging courses that I play, and it's really not in the grand scheme of things, but it's still just to get through there clean and not make any mistakes that gets me in trouble is still really really challenging, where I feel like it was kind of a cool thing to see that straight away, what it's like through the woods and that sort of thing. But really out here, we don't have much in the way of just open golf, and it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare in here around in my area. Even like some of our small park style courses will have more wooded type shots in them, so it's always a little bit of a blend for the most part.
Yeah, and I like courses like the one you talked about. If you start on a decently challenging course, you can start seeing progress a lot more quickly. Because at an easier course, you can go from, shooting 10 over to 8 over to then you're even, and then all of a sudden you're shooting under, and you're like, I got this thing mastered. Right. And that's obviously far from the case if it's just a kind of a pitch and putt. And starting on a regular, on a, more of a difficult, challenging course, I like that because there's always something to get better at. So that's cool.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. Taking on the role as the team manager at Dynamic Discs, when did you actually start that job?
I started officially February 16th of this year. So about 7 months ago now.
Okay. And what were you throwing before that? Or were you already on the team though, right?
Mm-hmm. I got sponsored by Dynamic Discs end of 2013, early 2014. Like right around there, we had been talking and made it official beginning of 2014. And so I had already transitioned my bag over toward the end of 2013 and was competing with that with that bag for a little while. I guess this is it's my fourth year with a team. Is that right? Yeah, that's right.
When did they actually? Because I remember right after they released the first initial, I think it was the Judge, Renegade, Escape. Those came out, and the original Truth. I had reached out and they sent me a box. I was like one of the first manufacturers that ever sponsored reviews for my channel. It was the coolest thing ever when I got like a stack of these 5 brand new Dynamic Discs, molds that they had just released. But I don't remember when that was. You know what year? What year was that?
Yeah, so late 2012 we came out with 4 molds. This was before I was on. Before I was on the team, and at the time I was sponsored by Millennium, and I had grown up. I had started out throwing Innova, just because that's what we had in our area. That's what most people threw.
Sure.
So it was what I knew well, and being sponsored by Millennium, I threw a lot of that stuff as well. But yeah, when we first came out with discs, it was late 2012, so like October, November, December, right in there. Okay. And we had the Judge and the Fugitive, the Escape, and the Trespass. Those were our first 4. And then pretty quickly after came, the Suspect was somewhat soon after that. Like you said, the Renegade was pretty soon after that. The Truth was pretty soon after that. So those were kind of the first early additions to it. And only one of those discs is out of production right now. That's the Fugitive.
Right. I remember that disc, yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't quite catch on for some reason. So
yeah, I hear you. You can't win them all. I do remember... so I'm trying to think of when it was, because I can't remember if I got that sponsorship set up for those reviews before or after I think that was after I initially tested the Escape on my own, maybe. I can't remember now, because I remember at Beaver State Fling one year I bought my Trespass, which is still in my bag, and it was like it's a pre-Sweden or whatever Trespass.
Right.
And it's still my go-to flyer, and I really honestly feel like it hasn't changed flight hardly at all. It's not something I work through the woods a lot, so I throw it more on more open distance, shots for me. And I swear the thing just still flies exactly the same. I'm just trying to put it together in my head, like when all that stuff happened. Just the other day, I did an episode where I was talking about changes that have occurred in the sport since I started. And I was kind of recapping that whole period of when Dynamic started making plastic, plus Prodigy had just kind of came out, and there was that kind of mass exodus and all these different players moving all around. And like I remember that being just a really interesting time to be a part of the community and see all the different changes that occurred at that time. It was I think in a few years when we look back, I think that'll be kind of like almost like a turning point, and really just kind of opening up the market quite a bit. Those 2 companies just really kind of blew it open, because before that, it really was mostly just an Innova and Discraft kind of show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was a really big shift, and for somebody who at the time I was, what year did we say that was? 2012. So yeah, I had been playing in Open for since 2010, but never quite on the level of those guys. But I was a competitive player, a serious player, so I kept up with the scene. And so when people switched sponsors and and all that, we knew about it pretty quickly. Especially that was back when the DGCR forums were, I think, a lot more prevalent than they are now, just because Facebook has kind of taken over a lot of that.
Sure. Yeah.
But I remember reading who knows how many threads about that whole big change and everything. And so I do think that was a turning point in that it wasn't just like it's not a monopoly. Is duopoly a word? However it is that you would say,
Right.
however it is that you would say there's two companies who are the very clear front runners at the time, and then everyone else was just kind of there. And then, when we started making discs and Prodigy started making discs, I think we gained a lot more parity in the I guess competitive portion of the sport, and that's been really cool to see that there are valuable sponsorships from more companies than just a couple. There are a lot of companies that players can be proud to be sponsored by. So it's cool. I like it.
And it's like anything else too, because when there's more options out there, it kind of pushes everybody to kind of continue building their lineup and improving their discs, and the kind of shifting of players around, and kind of probably made some strides in terms of contracts for players in those days as well, because there was more competition. Because now I could go here, I could go there. When there wasn't as many options before that, it kind of just opens the door for a lot of different growth in different ways. So I think that will be that little time period will be looked on as an interesting period in the development of the game, I think.
No doubt about that. And I think one of the interesting transitions there too was, Prodigy started off with just studs. I mean, name the best players in the sport, and they were either on Prodigy or had been offered to be on Prodigy. I mean, it was every person.
I think they offered basically everyone. I thought at that time
that I can think of. Yeah,
it's interesting too, because like Eric obviously stuck where he stuck with DD, and then like Nate Doss stayed where he was, and then Paul Macbeth stayed on Innova, and honestly, those were probably smart decisions on their part, because they kind of became the face of that brand at that point. You know what I mean? Because all of a sudden, Discraft loses Coling and Emac and Kale and Paige and wasn't Sarah Hokum? It was really interesting to look back on those days. So, what are your kind of day-to-day operations as the team manager? Obviously, during the heart of the season, you're working a lot with the players, making sure they have what they need, and are best equipped to keep their tour rolling and stuff like that. But what does like an average day of work look like for you?
Sure. It's honestly different most days. That's one of the things that I really like about it, is there are days where I'm sitting at my desk answering emails all day. I mean, from 8 to 5. And, I'll get out of the office a little bit to grab a disc or two, but there are some days that are just that. Then there are some days where I'm on the phone with players all day, catching up with our players, making sure, like you said, they have what they need, and that they're maintaining their responsibilities. And honestly, one thing that I ask our players about a lot is, are we maintaining our responsibilities? Like, do you feel like we're upholding our end of the bargain? Because our sponsorship is a partnership. It's not just I give you what you want or need, and in return I expect these things. We want to make sure that it's mutually beneficial. So there are days like that. Then there are days like there are times where we have to get team shipments out with new releases, and so Denise, Cameron, and I will go to the conference room and just box discs all day. So I would say those are the less glamorous days on the job, maybe is a good way to put it. But then there's a lot of other fun things I get to do. Like I past just the team manager portion, I like talking to new players, people who are interested in being on the team. This, I don't know if everybody knows this, but whenever people apply through the website, we've got an online app that you can fill out. And I answer each of those personally. And so a lot of time I get to spend looking at just who's the future and getting to interact with some people I might not have known otherwise, things like that. But so that's one portion, and then community development, I'd say, is the other big portion of my job, where if we have clinics, or I do, like I said, an adult class with educators in the area. The last couple of Saturdays I've had like an outdoor, how would you say it? It's not really a camp. I don't know, just kind of like you can try all sorts of different sports at this thing. I guess it's more of an exhibition, maybe is a good way to put it. So disc golf and horseback riding and archery and trap shooting, stuff like that. And then cool. I did a clinic for some Boy Scouts this last Saturday for a merit badge for their troop. So a bunch of stuff like that. Nice. And then obviously the media side that's not necessarily associated with a role. It's just something that I had done a little bit with Smashbox before and had interacted with Bobby whenever we did live coverage of the GBO one year. And it was just something that I'd always been interested in, and he saw a need to do some videos. And then once those started rolling, he asked if I wanted to be on Answer Man, and now we're here. And that part is super fun. I mean, that's barely even work. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, it seems like you guys have fun, and I think that translates to the listeners where it doesn't seem like a chore by any means. So it seems like you guys would do it anyway, even if it wasn't like necessarily benefiting DD or, you're getting paid for it or whatever. It definitely seems like a lot of fun. I've really liked your addition to the show as well. I think you give solid advice, and it just makes a lot of sense too with Eric traveling and stuff like that, since you're usually more, at home based, that you and Bobby can take on most of the questions with plenty of competency, which is great.
Yeah, I truly love getting to do it, and it's like you said. I would hope that translates to the listeners, that when we get there, we don't put on our happy face and then just start chatting like, oh man, everything is great, and then when we turn it off, it's like, all right, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like those are friends of mine, and that just makes it so much better to get to interact with them in that sort of way, and put those episodes together where they can be helpful to people, but also entertaining.
Absolutely,
yeah, where we just get to go have a good time. So
I have no doubt that translates to the average listener. I know it does. It's obvious for me that you guys clearly have a rapport and like enjoy doing it, and I think that makes it that much more enjoyable to watch. So,
awesome.
Speaking of advice and stuff like that, what would you say is like your most universal piece of beginner to newer player advice that you think would help the most people? Like, what's the main thing you see folks doing wrong that's like an easy fix that you would tell newer players that are just starting out?
Sure. If they're really brand new, a lot of times they're having issues with the plane on which they keep the disc from reach back to hit to follow through. So they're having a lot of these swooping, just stall hyzers that travel 150 feet or less. And that's how my wife started out too. And every once in a while she'll still get the nose up some, but the imagery that's helped her the most is just talking about pulling the disc flat across the tabletop, right? So just you pull back as flat as you can, and when you're bringing your arm across, you're just trying to be in the straightest possible line, like there are drinks on top of your tray on the disc. That sort of imagery usually connects with newer players. And if they can do that and then couple that with a weight shift that really gets their weight started backwards and then follows through onto their front leg, that's how they get a lot more level flights. And once you can, I think the hardest thing to do in disc golf is to learn to throw a shot that comes out flat and flies straight and finishes flat. And so once you learn to do that, you have good enough control of your body that you can adjust to different types of shots. Right. So, if I need to throw a hyzer, I'm using this same general mechanics. I'm bending my torso a little bit forward. I'm reaching a little farther away from my body because I'm pulling toward more of a point outside my body. But your body is now accustomed to doing what you want it to, And I think if people can learn to do that, to throw flat and fly straight and finish flat, they can pretty much do whatever they want after that.
Sure. That's definitely the hardest shot to master, too. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier with putters, where if you can throw just a neutral, straight-flying putter flat and level all the way and let it fly, it's such a useful skill that translates to so many other things. Where if you try to start with a driver and Anheuser flex everything to try to get distance and stuff like that, and it just stunts you so much to not know how to just throw that flat level shot. I kind of have an issue where I'm more comfortable throwing on a hyzer, so I always throw a lot of discs that have some degree of natural turn to them, so I can release on a little bit of hyzer and get the varying angles from there. But that's definitely something that I've been working on more and more. It's just trying to throw more mid ranges as well, because I was always kind of a putter to driver kind of player, off the tee especially. Like if I would throw a putter whenever I can, and I still do most of the time. But just recently, I've realized it's just been kind of a good learning tool for me to throw my compasses and just learn to release that super flat and level on a smooth line rather than trying to hyzer flip something and something a little flippier. It's definitely helping my overall releases.
Yeah, there's no way that it couldn't. I mean, yeah, getting those neutral discs to come out flat is really difficult, and honestly, that's something that I still need to work on. When I was at my absolute best pre-second knee surgery, I had really good control over my angles of release. And so, I mean, super flat to barely just touch anhyzers to slight hyzers. I felt really good about my angle control. And when I came back from knee surgery, I found that my natural release had turned to a lot more hyzer than it was before. And so I've had to kind of adjust that angle back up, and I'm still having to relearn how to throw really flat and straight. I in general, have a really slight hyzer release. I mean, not a whole lot, but enough that's my tendency. If I'm going to miss, usually I'm going to miss too much to the left instead of turning something over too much. So that's something I'm working on still.
Yeah, that's definitely the case for me. Like, I see a lot of people have trouble accidentally flipping discs over. And even when I'm throwing like a Fury or something flippy like that, I rarely have the problem of like having it ride too much to the right. That's not something I generally have to worry about for whatever reason. It could be the amount of energy I'm putting on it, for sure, but I think it's just because of that natural hyzer release, where if you're throwing more flat to anhyzer, it's easier to just kind of roll your wrist over that little bit more on the release, and all of a sudden it just snaps over and burns out to the right. But I will more often either. Honestly, my problem that I usually run into as far as just total misfires is I will end up throwing outside on a hyzer rather than hyzer flip straight. I'll do that quite a bit and get me way offline.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. That's an ongoing struggle for me as well. Always working on anhyzers for sure.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I've been really enjoying throwing the compass off the tee for a lot of those shots as well, because it really shows you how you threw it. It's such a neutral disc that it's a great learning tool in that respect. And I even will recommend it to beginners, even though it's a little bit more on the stable side compared to like a Opto Pure or something like that. But it's so neutral when you release it with a clean angle. It really rewards you with that beautiful flight just on the line that you want. But I think it's still a really great learning tool that I recommend to a lot of folks. Speaking of molds, since this is the plastic podcast, we do talk. My channel is very much centered around discs and plastic, with I think 162 or so reviews posted as of right now.
Nice.
What are some of your favorite like go-to DD molds that you throw the most and that you recommend to the most people?
Sure. The most obvious one, I think I probably talk about this the most, and I feel like you would probably guess this if I just gave you one, but it'd be the Warden. I love the Warden, and I've thrown a lot of different types of putters, all different types of AVRs back in the day, KCs and Star beadless and all that stuff. And
Was
then
that that's what you putted with when you were in Innova?
I putted with KCs, yeah. Okay. And then every once in a while I'd throw in just a DX no bead. But it's just kind of how I was feeling. But for the most part, KCs. I actually still have one KC that it was one of the first ones. I guess the first one I got that I used it so much the bead is all the way worn off. I mean, it's a beadless putter now, and it used to weigh 175, and now it weighs like 168 or something like that. I mean, it's lost a lot, and so. I've sold off most of that stuff by now, but I still have that one, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, you got to hold on to some of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, and then I threw Omegas, and I think those are really good teaching tools as well. But for me, I think the Warden has been my favorite mold to both putt and to throw. Putting wise, it just comes out of my hand really clean. I putted the Judge for a little while, and the big bead feel is just not for me. I like a beadless feel, and I like that the Warden still has some pretty good stability. It's more overstable than people think it's going to be.
It really is. It's I remember being surprised testing one that like I was expecting a much more just kind of flippy straight. Kind of I honestly was after testing them both when I first tried the Warden, I was expecting it to behave more like a Deputy.
Right.
Just based on the feel and honestly when because I had some stamped up, some Wardens and Judges, and if anybody asked me like what's the difference, it's like one's got a bead, one doesn't. Like they're really they're very similar overall. I would say the Judge is probably still a little bit more stable. Would you agree with that? But it's not a lot though.
Yeah, just a hair. I think at lower speeds the Judge finishes it dives a little bit more. So it doesn't necessarily move left a lot more. It just dives a little bit more.
A little bit more fade at the end. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I mean, I love the stability of the Warden for putting, and then I love it for throwing. Right now I throw a classic blend Warden for my straight to turnover shots. It's pretty worked in. It's hit some trees and some baskets and things like that. And then I like Fusion or Lucid Wardens for my straight to overstable putter shots in there. Nice. Yeah, that's far and away my favorite mold. If I had to pick one disc that I would feel most comfortable using on any shot, it's a lot of times it's the Warden for me.
Right on.
Even like I was playing an A tier in Des Moines a few weeks ago, rather poorly I might add, but that's neither here nor there. And we stepped up to a hole that I had thought about a forehand and I thought about a mid-range turnover, and I just wasn't really throwing either of those two things very well. And the hole was like 290 or 300 or so, little tunnel, and finished to the right. And I just hit my Warden hard because it's the one I felt most confident in and got one of the few birdies I got that day. Yeah. And so it's just one of those discs I feel like I can lean on anytime. Totally. Let's see what else. I'm really liking the Slammer a lot for my overstable putter shots, windy shots, headwind putts. I really like a blend Slammer for that because it just doesn't act like other putters. You know, the Warden and Judge and basically any disc that has a little bit more glide loves to lift in a headwind just because that's the physics of disc golf. If you have the nose level or even slightly nose up. But the Slammer is straight. It doesn't care about wind.
Yeah, I've been using the Caltrop for that. I have and they're honestly very similar. I just feel like I like the feel of the Caltrop just that little bit. But I remember testing them both relatively close to each other, and I don't feel like there was a huge difference in stability. I feel like the Slammer was probably a little bit more stable, a little more fade at the end. But I know what you mean. It's got the Caltrop has that nice flat top to it. And it's just not like a deep dish kind of disc that really wants to grab a lot of air underneath it. So it's a great headwind. Just if you gotta just jam a 15-footer with the wind blowing, it works pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. When I tested the Caltrop early on, it was just like a brick. I mean, you throw it hard and it's going to go straight and finish to the left. It's not going to glide a lot, and that's a lot what you're looking for in an approach disc. So
yeah, that's what I like about it too. Is that I never have to worry about overshooting the target with it. And it's kind of a pro or a con depending on your perspective, but if you don't commit to it and throw it strong, it's real easy to just leave it short.
Yep.
And there's nothing worse than like just trying to I'm just going to lay it up next to the basket from 100, and then now
just
you've got
kidding,
a
30.
35 footer, and you're just like hating life, and then you miss that one, and it can just derail you mentally for. I have problems with those too. Those wide open shots. There are times where I'm just like, I wish there was a tree in front of me right now to make me focus on this more, so I could dial that in. But yeah, you could easily say that that's a benefit of it though too, is that you need to commit to throwing your up shots with it, because if you fluff it, it's not going to get the job done at all.
Absolutely, and I'm with you. When I threw the slammer at first, I found out I needed to throw it, like, for me, just in my mind, about 10 to 20% harder than I thought I needed to get it to the basket. And now I kind of have a feel for it. But at the time, I would throw it how I felt like I needed to, and I would come up about that same distance. From 200 or so, I'd come up 30 or 40 short of where I thought it would land. And so those are the putters I use a lot. For my mids, I like the EMAC Truth a lot. And I've actually started throwing the original Truth for my flip-up shots to slight right turns. I love getting back to that disc. It just doesn't fade.
Like the current runs of the original Truth?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
There's some burst ones that just recently came out, and I just grabbed a lightweight one from the DC. I don't know, 170 or something like that, just to mess with it. And it's like just the easiest smooth turner, and doesn't want to fight back. Not a turn and burn, so it's really cool. So those are the mids I use most. I carry a Verdict, I carry a Justice, but I don't pull those out quite as much as the Truths. Then I've got an Escape still. It's kind of being phased out right now by my Convicts. I like the Convicts a lot, but I'd say my most used fairway driver is a Criminal. I have a Lucid Criminal, which is just Beef Town, and then I've got a Bio Criminal, which is worked in. And I don't know if you have seen my In the Bag video or anything, or any videos with that disc in it, but when I throw it and I tell people what it is, they're like, "That's not a Criminal." I mean, it's like it's like a slightly more overstable Convict. It'll go straight. It's always going to finish left, but it'll go straight. Most Criminals are just meat hooks. And so
how does the Criminal compare to the Felon for you?
The Criminal is a little bit faster. It's a slightly wider rim, and it's slightly more overstable. So
that's what I expected. I haven't actually tested the Criminal yet. That's kind of one that's fallen through the cracks on me. I should bug Anthony about that.
That's right.
Rectify that situation.
I think it's worth it, man. I won my first B tier earlier this year, and it was really windy both days. It was actually where I learned to play disc golf in Abilene, and so I knew it was going to be windy. And I leaned on the Criminal and the Slammer for who knows how many shots, just because those were straight headwind. Great, I'll throw a Criminal. Just straight headwind putt. Great, I'll throw a Slammer. So I'd say those are the two fairway drivers I throw the most, both for forehands and for backhands. And then my distance drivers are a combination of enforcers and defenders, and it just, for me, depends on which ones are feeling good that day. I like the defenders on hyzers a little bit more because it feels like on a pure hyzer they get me just that little bit more distance if I want it. But the enforcers that I use are mostly a little bit more beat up, so they're a little bit straighter to slight turners. I like them for that. And then I carry some trespasses as well, and I've really gotten back into the trespass lately. The newer runs have been surprisingly more stable than you think they would be, because the original Trespass had not a significant amount of turn, but a predictable turn. I throw it on hyzer, I know it's tipping up to flat, probably getting over to the right a little before coming back. And the new Lucid runs that are domey they're stable. Like they're good.
I'm probably gonna need to pick one of those up actually, because I've been feeling like I need something faster, like fast on the same speed range as my Trespass, but just a little bit more stability and just a little bit more of a dramatic fade at the end of the flight. Because for me, the Trespass, like I don't have a big arm, and plus, like we talked about, I do a decent amount of hyzer releases, especially for like distance throws. So I don't have too much. They don't ride too far to the right for me. They more just stand up and hold for a long time. And then always have that nice predictable finish at the end of the flight. All the ones that I throw the most Well, the one I throw the most in my bag, then I have a bunch of backups are all pre-Sweden ones, so like the kind of the early ones,
Right.
which are I love them. Like the opaque pre-Sweden Trespass, like around 170, is probably my favorite driver.
Yeah.
Overall, and then I have an Air that I like for just max distance. That's still like pretty dependable, and I don't have to. I don't really have to check up on it too much. It'll just it'll push that little bit farther, and probably stand up and ride a little bit more, which I like for certain shots. And then I don't know if you've experienced this, but I have a prime Trespass in the bag for certain, just for water shots and that sort of thing. It's also super nice for rainy rounds.
Yeah.
Like if it's rainy or the grass is wet, when I get out to the course, I'll throw that thing a lot just because the grip is really nice. But when I first got it, it was really overstable. It's probably more overstable than my Lucids for sure. So
yeah, that's how prime discs start out a lot, honestly. The Trespass is like that. The Defender is like that. The prime Defenders were almost stilettos when they came out, which was kind of crazy. But yeah, I mean they're super good for grip, and once they get just a couple of hits, they get the really nice flight, and so you've got kind of the best of both worlds. But yeah, I'd recommend trying out. Just get one of the new stock Lucid Trespasses.
I probably will. That's a good idea for sure.
I think we've got some really pretty, kind of like Easter egg looking ones, blue rim with a white center, and I think they're worth checking out.
Are they opaque or?
Generally, yeah, the ones that I've seen have been. But, nice. I mean, the Lucids that we've got, if you get a white Lucid, most of them are opaque right now. More opaque, at least.
Yeah, sweet. All right, cool. Yeah, I might have to do that for sure.
Sure.
Like, I've tried the Enforcer, I've tried the Defender. I think they're both just too much disc for me, personally. And I don't know, though, because I've only tried... I tried one of the Fusion EMAC, like, mustache Enforcers... And that thing was
too much disc for most people.
Super beef, yeah. Yes. And I wasn't sure if that was representative. So maybe I just need like a slightly broken in, straight up Lucid might actually do exactly what I want. Because that thing was just so, like, I just couldn't get it to ride at all. It would just start fading so fast on me. I couldn't get any, even into a wind, I felt like I could throw something slower farther than that. You know what I mean? It was just too much for me.
Yeah. Was it the first run of Mustache Enforcers?
I think so. Yeah, it was like an orange, very metallic, like Fusion one. Yeah,
yeah.
And it was even like slightly like it had a little bit of wear on the outer edge, not much, just like a little bit. But it was. I remember that thing being because I thought like, oh, it's a perfect layer from Trespass. I'll step it up to this, and I'm like, whoa, like there's a couple of notches in between these two for me.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah. Those are actually, I think that's probably one of the most overstable runs we've had. In general, the Enforcer's obviously overstable, but those ones are like powerful overstable. So we'll holler about a trade sometime because I like those ones. Just for, I mean, like as has been well documented, I'm not a real big arm, but when it's really windy and I need to carry. I know I need to get left. That's the Trespass. That's the Enforcer that I use. Is a pink one of those, and it's like a 168, and it's dumb overstable.
Yeah, and then you just love seeing Ricky Heiser flip one.
Those are worn in. I've seen those.
They must be because it's just.
I've put my hands on those.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I would try a Bio Enforcer. It's going to start off, still overstable, but the Bio Enforcers that I've got now are, Heiser to flat, and I like them a lot for that.
Cool.
So check those out.
Yeah, honestly though, to keep the bag simple, I might just get myself a brand new max weight Lucid Trespass and just see how that flies. I might actually do exactly what I want it to do.
Yeah, I think you'll be surprised. They're good.
Are you involved in much as far as testing molds? Is that like something that everybody in the warehouse will kind of help out with, or is there specific like field testers?
Kind of. The only brand new mold that's come out since I've been here that we were going to test and assign flight numbers to and everything like that has been the Deputy, and so I was involved in the testing of that and feeling out what we thought the numbers would be, and so yeah, I have a little bit of a hand in that. But when they're tested, to really get like, if we ask for a certain flight, they test it for that overseas before even really sending them over to make sure that we're on the same page before we start running quite a bit more.
Right.
So, and we've got 4 molds coming out in 2018, and so I'm definitely excited to test those. There are going to be some fan favorites for sure.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
I'm always, I'm excited about that. I'm always happy
yes,
to see that new plastic come out. It keeps the ball rolling for me real easy. All right, where were we here? Okay, so this is going to get silly, but I'm going to have you take on the lightning round. We're going to mix it up here.
Let's do it.
So it's one or the other, kind of Coke or Pepsi kind of situation. There's no right or wrong answer. It has none of it has anything to do with disc golf.
Right. Well, that one's Coke, and that is the right answer.
Okay, boom. So we started out. You already got an answer. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, pizza or burgers?
Pizza.
Inside or outside?
Outside.
Beer or liquor?
Neither.
I was expecting that, actually.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't like. I've just never really gotten interested in drinking alcohol. Truly, early on, as I've said before, I worked at a church before, and growing up, I wasn't going to drink until it was legal because this may shock some people who listen to this, but I'm a rule follower. I mean, big time.
Yeah.
I don't like to break rules. I don't like to bend rules. I'm just toe the line.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So anyway, I never had any interest in
just
drinking.
Not on your radar. You're probably better. You're probably better off, honestly. It's not
right. And then I turned 21, and then that stayed the same. And now let's see, what was today? The 27th. I turned 32 in 3 days.
Nice.
I've just never I've tasted champagne on our honeymoon, and if my brother has a beer every once in a while, he'll be like, "Hey, taste this, see if you like it." But I just never have really been interested in it.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you, man. I'm not much into it these days either.
And I don't begrudge people who are like, do your thing,
sure.
and enjoy your whiskey, enjoy your beer, whatever. It's just not really for me.
Yeah, no, I hear you. All right, continuing on with the lightning round: Indiana Jones or James Bond?
Oh crap! I think Indiana Jones.
Okay,
except for not Crystal Skull.
we don't count that. That didn't happen.
I do like James Bond though. Too.
I don't even know what you're talking. What are you referring to?
Yeah, right.
Dinosaurs or sharks?
Dinosaurs.
Cheese or chocolate?
Crap. Cheese.
There's tight margins between some of these two for me even because I'll be reading these and I'll be like, wait, what's my answer right now? I'm not even sure.
Right. I just don't eat a lot of sweet stuff, honestly. So.
Okay, then the next one will be easy: sweet or savory?
Savory.
Okay, Nicolas Cage or Liam Neeson?
Ooh, Liam Neeson. I don't need like who, what, where. I don't need all that.
Nice. Die Hard or Lethal Weapon?
Die Hard. Nice. The earlier ones.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Rocky or Rambo?
Rocky.
Nice. That's definitely the correct answer to that one.
Yes, true.
Books or movies?
Books. I don't really watch many movies.
Really?
Yeah, Bobby gives me crap about it all the time. He'll quote something and then just look at me like, "Come on, man! Like, you know what that's from, right?" I mean, I feel like I've seen a lot of classics that you need to see, but newer movies, not very much.
Not on your radar. That's fair.
Nah, I did see Dunkirk, and that was pretty good. But it's just
I think I know what that is. Yeah,
that's the one about the war, and it's just like you're just dropped into this moment in time, and that's it. And so that was good, but. For the most part, if I like movies, it's older movies that kind of have sentimental value or that I used to think were funny, and since they've been funny for that long, now they're still funny. Things like that.
For sure. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Nice. I think Eric would be really upset if you answered that anyway.
Yeah, he would approve.
Zelda or Mario? I don't know if you're a video game guy.
I like playing video games, but I never had a Nintendo. I had a Sega Genesis, and I had a Dreamcast, and now I have an Xbox One.
Oh, okay.
But between those two, Mario.
I'll allow it. Okay, nice. Coffee or tea?
Tea. Only.
Only tea?
Yeah.
Wow.
I have recently, and this is a big change for me. I've recently started trying. I like chai tea because I'm a weenie. I'm not like a super coffee kind of guru or whatever. But I started trying a dirty chai, which is chai tea with a shot of espresso, and that's been all right. But most mornings, just like a black lemon tea is what I drink.
Okay, nice. Mountains or the beach?
Mountains all day, every day.
Nice. Yeah, that one's tough for me, but I think I go mountains because I grew up right next to the beach, so it's just not that exciting. It's kind of like the mountains are like the exciting thing, but now there's both. And here in Oregon, you can be like on a mountain looking at the beach, which is pretty cool.
That's a pretty good deal. Yeah, my wife and I are both the same way. We honeymooned in Denver because we both like the mountains more than we like the beach. So yeah.
Yeah, the Rockies are insane too. My uncle lives down in Salt Lake City, and just the mountains that run through there are just ridiculous.
No doubt.
So cool. All right, Goodfellas or Godfather?
Godfather for me.
Oh, okay. And finally, cake or death?
Cake or death? I mean, I'll take cake, I guess.
Okay. That one is an homage to Eddie Izzard. He's a famous comedian. He has a stupid bit about cake or death, so I throw that in there just to be stupid.
I'll take cake then.
Okay, so we went light. We went with the lightning round. We lightened it up a little bit. Now I'm going to hit you with a tough question.
Let's go.
And this one, in your opinion, as someone who functions as a team manager in the sport of disc golf, purely hypothetically, if Josh Anthon goes out and takes down the USDGC by a few strokes, will he be picked up by a sponsor, namely Innova or potentially Legacy, in the off season?
It's a really good question. I don't know, man. I don't know. I know that because Drew's on our team, and we have Drew and Josh have a documented close relationship. Everybody knows that they're bros and hang out all the time.
Yeah.
And so I hear about Josh and just kind of how he's doing, and it seems like he's really worked hard to turn things around. And this is what Drew's told me, so I don't really know anything about the situation firsthand at all. But it seems like it was more misunderstood than people were led to believe.
Sure.
That's what he says. Like I said, I don't know about any of that. But I don't know. I could
truthfully, nobody knows what actually. There's very few people that actually know what happened. And honestly, depending on we were talking about alcohol earlier with Josh. Depending on what his level of inebriation was at the time, who knows how?
Sure, he may not have known
how strong his memory is of the event. So
right.
I don't pass. I'm trying not to pass judgment on it in general, just because I don't know what went on, but it's interesting to think about whether or not if that's enough. Would that be enough for Innova to take a chance of bringing back in to say now we have the last two USDGC champs on the team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I could see something like that happening for sure, but at the same time, I could see them saying, we've had a partnership before. We're excited that he throws our discs, but we just don't want to begin a professional relationship. I could see that going either way with pretty much any manufacturer.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Hypothetically, how would you approach a situation similar to that? If somebody on the team were to have some type of legal issue, and then they resolve it throughout the court system, would there be any influence from you on that, or would it just be if they serve their time as mandated by the courts, would that be good enough, or how would you kind of approach that?
For me, that's a case by case thing, to tell you the truth. I think I would really have to be in that situation to be able to say how I would handle it. I feel like there are certain things that if you did, we probably wouldn't want to continue our professional relationship with that person. And then there could be things that were either misunderstood or wrong place, wrong time, or So I think it would just be, for me, situational.
I think that's the most fair and level-headed way to approach it too. Yeah, just to see how it were to go.
Honestly, one of the things I try to do most whenever I'm managing and trying to hear players out is just listen, right? Not have my mind made up about what happened. If I've had to discipline a player or call and say, hey, you're not doing this thing or that thing, I always try to listen first, because if I have my mind already made up when I call them, that's not helpful for either of us. Because then we'll be at an impasse from minute one. And so, yeah, I think it would be the same in that sort of situation. Do a whole lot of listening before any decision making or talking.
It might be something that you have to deal with relatively soon, because if Paige continues what she's been doing, she might get arrested for just absolutely destroying her field. Yeah, it's just beyond belief, the kind of performances that she's been putting up all season. It's just crazy. And I was thinking about it a lot when you guys were talking about it on Smashbox last night. And before Terry had even said it, I kind of thought the same thing, is that I bet you there's plenty of times where she could just throw it at the base of the pole and move on and win by even more strokes.
Yeah.
It's just like her throwing is that clean, and she just has so many more tools off the tee. I don't think they just can't handle it. It's just crazy. It's really impressive.
Yeah, that has been one cool thing to watch about Paige, is if you haven't watched her throw in person, and then you do, if you watch on video, all videos make it look easier than it is. You know,
Sure.
The courses are easier, the throws look shorter, things like that. But until you watch her throw in person, you don't really understand just how good she is and just how quickly she accelerates.
Technical difficulties, these things happen. We don't have Bobby or Anthony here like orchestrating this whole experience.
That's right,
for us.
the experts.
We're at the mercy of our own limitations here. Okay,
Right.
So another thing I want to do while I had you here, because I feel like it's been a little bit silly, is all the nicknames. The nicknames are just starting to pile up.
Yeah.
We can't get one dialed in for you. And I have a suggestion of an idea for how we can sort this out. And then I also have a few of my own suggestions to run by you, and you can give me your thoughts on this. So
I'm interested.
Here's my first idea, is to have a contest where fans of the show submit their idea for your nickname, and then have some type of voting process, whether amongst the staff there or just make Rusco pick or whatever, however you want to decide the winner, and then maybe send them out a little prize package of a couple of discs or something like that. So you could open it up to some more folks to kind of maybe nail down a halfway decent nickname for you, so we don't keep getting all these insulting ones.
Right.
Comparing you to that weird Dixon Jowls? Was that it?
Yeah, that's right, Jowls. No, like that when the guy called in and said Dixon Delight, we were just like, what? Because, like I've said before, Dixon and I are friends. Like, we just played our match play thing the other night. We play disc golf together all the time.
Right.
And yeah, there are similarities between us, but it was funny to just full out call you a different person.
Yeah.
But whatever. He and I both just kind of laughed at that.
Do you listen to Dixon's show, by the way?
I haven't in the last couple of shows.
Mm-hmm. I've been staying up on it. I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I think he does a really good job. I haven't. Trying to think of. I think I've missed the last 2 weeks or the last 2 shows.
Nice.
So, but yeah, I think he's doing a good job with it for sure.
For a while, I was doing like kind of tournament wrap up shows and stuff just to have a topic to ramble about to try to keep the ball rolling, because I enjoy recording these, but. And then after listening to like his with all the stats and all this stuff, it's like, I'm just talking about what I watched on Joe Mass. I did one for the Beaver State because I was actually there, because I go out every year for the Beaver State and I watch lead card and that sort of thing. So I've seen like a bunch of pretty solid, pretty epic battles out there. I was there for the Portland Worlds playoff between Ricky and Paul. I was there for that.
Crazy.
I remember distinctly Ricky hit that tree on his forehand on the par 5 on the final hole, and like my heart sank, because a lot of people don't realize that Paul McBeth was not in the lead in that Worlds at any time.
Yeah,
did you know that?
Until he was tied at the end.
He was never in the lead for a moment. Not by one stroke did he ever hold the lead. and it was like Yuli and I think Yuli and Rick traded it off like the whole event pretty much. Mm-hmm. Maybe Doss was on the lead card for that too, and then went to the playoff. And then I remember Paul put in the winning putt, and I turned and I just walked away. I didn't even. I didn't
just like what just happened.
So done. I was like, I'm out of here. It was like super hot and dry, and Blue Lake is like stifling. There's no breeze out there. It's just like hot and just like, and then this super long round. I was out there all day because I watched the semifinals, then I watched the final 9, and then now we're on this huge playoff all over. And it was epic. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to complain about being there because it was a really cool moment, but yeah, I just remember turning my back and just walking away. And then I got back to Tournament Central. My wife was there. I was like, let's go. I'm out of here. Like, I didn't stick around for any of this stuff. And that was really like when I became a big fan of Rick, honestly, because when I first got to Milo for maybe second round or something like that, I was like, oh, you know what? I want to see Ricky. Like, I would like to see him throw in person. That would be really cool because I'd just seen him online and stuff. And after like watching him that whole event and having him do so well and be so close, it was just like I just became a big fan of just his overall play and the way he carried himself. And I remember we got in the car and we drove away, and I just saw him walking alone down the fairway of 1, empty, because the whole gallery was off on the par 5. Yeah, and I just felt so bad for him, and ever since then I've just been such a huge fan. It's kind of a weird story for me because most people like just were so stoked about the epic battle and everything, and for whatever I got so emotionally invested in it that I didn't even enjoy it. It was too much. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
I totally understand, and yeah, I have immense respect for Paul. For going 4 in a row, like, absolutely. Come on, man, that's
no doubt.
That's something silly. But, you could see in Rick during that time, and I played with Ricky at the Veterans Park Open in Texas in, 13 or 14. And it was, I guess it was the year right after he had won the major, where he'd won the PDGA championship or whatever it was. I don't remember. The one that was at the IDGC.
I think it was like the Hall of Fame Classic or something like that.
Yeah, this was the year that they did the performance flight only for USDGC, so they didn't do regular USDGC. So this was their major.
I remember that.
Yeah, and he won that one. I don't remember what year that was, but I played with him right after that, and even then you could tell like this guy's got the ability. It's just whether or not it's going to click, and when it does, it's going to be real. And that's what we've seen the last little bit. And since then, I've spent time with Ricky. With promotional stuff that we've done for him, but just hung out with him at friends' houses and things like that. He's just he's a super cool dude. So I'm
cool.
always rooting for him. He's a goofball.
I kind of like stick up for him a lot because people will like act like he's just like curmudgeon because he's so intense out there on the course.
He is,
and you feel it too. Like when it's like a lead card situation, you're following his card. Like you just feel that vibe. And like around him that he's not playing around. Like he is 100% in. It's win or nothing. Like he doesn't care, and I can literally, I feel like I literally feel that energy coming off of him. Like standing next to him at the tee when he's like waiting the tee off and stuff. He just gives that vibe where it's business time. He's not playing around at all. But then conversely, I've hung out with him. There was like a signing that Tim Scallinger and Rick did a signing out at like a Played Against Sports, and just like so like goofy and just really fun to hang out with, and we're just messing around like shooting like Nerf basketball and stuff. Like it was just super cool, and the juxtaposition between those two sides of him are really interesting. So I stick up for him a lot. Like, dude, you guys don't know, like he's so cool. I think people are really starting to notice that now. Like, he's become a lot more comfortable in interviews and all that stuff, and I think it's definitely translated.
Yeah, he's a goofball, man. After the luck of the draw skins that we did in Kansas City, we went back over to Pete Cashin's house, who owns the Dynamic Disc Kansas City store. And I bet we spent 2 hours or so just trying to do trick shots into the baskets that he had there. And we were just, cracking up and having a great time. So, he's a super, super cool dude. He is most certainly intense on the course, but But yeah, that's not him all the time. So he's a cool guy. I like him, and obviously, he's in my opinion, the best putter in the world, and so it's just really fun to watch him.
Yeah, you know what's really a trip? The other day, I forget. I think I was hanging out with my buddy, and we put on some kind of old tournament footage. I think it was like 2012 or something like that, and it was probably right before the period that we had spoke about earlier with the whole DD Prodigy kind of thing, and. Paul Macbeth, first of all, is rocking the D's on his shirt. He's got the double D's on the back of his shirt. And then Ricky, obviously he looks younger, but his backhand looked like nowhere close to what it looks like now.
Yes, exactly.
It's really interesting to see how, oh, man. And even Paul's form looked different, noticeably different, where I'm like, oh, wow, I forgot how much he's changed over the years as well. But Ricky's, the difference between his backhand now and then in 2011, 2012, it's almost like two completely different throws. It looks so different. It's really strange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy to watch their evolution over time for sure. And it's cool that we have YouTube now that we can go back and watch that. What was that? The 2012 Worlds in Charlotte. That's the first one that Macbeth won. Is that right?
I think that might have been one of what we were watching was one of those rounds of that.
Yeah, and
kind
just
of randomly
so cool
came on.
Yeah, so cool to go back and watch and now see how much better they are. That encourages me as a player because they're the best in the world now. People don't remember that they weren't always that good, and so it's encouraging if you're starting to get better at the sport. Go back and watch those guys. They didn't have the perfect form at the time. They weren't the best putters, but they still found a way to score because they're competitors.
Yeah,
and, people can do that too, but you've got to commit to it.
For sure.
I like that.
I remember the first year I went out to the Beaver State. I'm not sure what year this would have been, but it was the first year that Paul won it, and I didn't even know who he was. I don't think I knew who he was. I think I recognized him, and I was like, oh, I think I've seen this kid around somewhere. Or I've seen him on some video or something like that. And then I remember just being blown away by the shots that he was throwing. They were just ridiculous. Yeah. And I think it was him and Doss. Maybe Will Schustrick. I forget what the lead card was for that year, but I've seen that just being. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier with Paige and how you really don't get a sense for how far she's actually throwing. It's the same thing with any player. If you watch nothing but YouTube golf and then you actually get a chance to watch Ricky or Paul or any of our top players throw in person, it's almost like you can't believe what you just saw.
Right.
I remember just being out there what just happened right now? I think I was watching I was stationed at one spot and Garrett Gerthy came through and threw on one of the shots.
Oh my goodness.
I was just what even happened? I didn't even think that was remotely possible for him to throw as far and as straight as he was throwing, and it's really weird with him because it really doesn't look like he's doing anything. He has that just reaches back with that under his arm. He's got that weird form, and it just comes out of his hand and just is gone. It's just unbelievable to watch in person. And I think about that all the time when people talk about. I get bent out of shape about internet distance. It's one of my big disc golf pet peeves. When people I'll be perfectly honest. There was somebody who called in to Disc Golf Answer Man recently and said something about, I've been playing for 6 months and I'm throwing this disc 500 or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
I'm really sorry, dude. I'm just not buying it. I really don't think you know what a 500-foot golf shot really looks like. Because I've been out there and seen those guys throw, what is it? I forget what hole it is in the Beaver State layout. You probably might not be familiar anyway, but there's one hole. It's got to be 470 or something like that, and it's dead straight, and it's slightly uphill. And I've seen.
Is it the one up on the mound?
It's the one right before the really long par 5.
Okay.
So after they play the Genius Hole and they loop around the parking lot with those kind of short technical ones with the island. It's right after the one with the little parking lot island. So it's I've seen Nate Doss and Rick and Will Schustrick throw right to the basket on that just straight golf line. Yeah. And that's to really see that, it's I'm sorry, I'm not buying it that you're doing that after playing for a few months or whatever. Just some of the claims are really outlandish. So I always recommend to people like, dude, you really need to go check out just go watch live. You really don't even understand what disc golf can be until you see these guys in person. It's just unbelievable. So fun.
Yep. Agreed.
It's a great privilege. All right, back to the task at hand. Nicknames. Robert McCall. All right, here we go. So, Robert the Birdie McCall.
Okay.
Not too bad. And you can also throw Robert the Birdie and then go McCall and have like a little bird call in there just to spice it up a little bit. Okay.
Okay. All right.
This one's been staring us in the face. I don't know how no one's thought of this one, but Robert R. Mac McCall. We got EMAC. We got R. Mac. I mean, it's pretty solid.
I mean, I hear it, but I'm also not trying to just like Eric does something, so I do something. You know what I mean?
You could be Cool Daddy Slick R. Mac McCall.
Oh gosh. Okay, I would say that's my least favorite one so far. So there you go. All right, that's good.
All right, this is the one I actually genuinely like. Robert the Warden Hoarder McCall.
Hey, but that's just being real. I saw somebody posted a picture of their collection on the fan page today, and I started thinking like, how many Wardens do I have?
How many would you have?
I'm gonna have to sort that out. I'm gonna have to sort that out pretty soon. I think a ballpark. I know I'm sitting on. I think I have 14 first runs right now.
Wow!
In various stages of wear.
Just as backups to go in the bag as needed.
Yeah, backups.
That's pretty substantial.
Actually, when we were over at Pete Cashin's house, we were tossing some just random putters around, and he had these first run Wardens sitting there, and that we were and they were way beat up because they were just thrown on the concrete and in the pool and stuff like that. And I was like, Pete, this is what I putt with, man. He's like, well, just have them. So I walked out with 4
nice.
First run Wardens. I mean, they're beat up and they need some love, but
yeah.
But the others, the others weren't even ones that I got on the team. I bought them or traded for them, and so I've got those. I've probably got another 10 to 12 just regular classic ones, either team stamp or stock stamp.
Okay.
And then fusion ones, probably around 7 to 10, and then maybe 5 lucid ones.
Okay.
So I bet I'm around 40. It would be my guess.
That's a lot. I'm liking I'm liking that suggestion even more now. That makes more sense. I think that works for you. I would have to say I think for sure the disc I have the most copies of is the Compass. But I kind of collect them. Being such a Rick nerd, like I have so many. I have a couple that are signed. I got a burst one. The one you guys had the signing party, I got a burst one, and I got the one with the gold Dimax on it, the kind of special edition one. I have and then I have some like before he won Worlds ones, and just various ones. And now I have ones with my custom stamp on them. I actually was thinking about when I first got the box, I got some really nice gray swirly Prime ones with the Disc Golf Nerd logo on them. I was thinking about trying to send you one, but you don't need it. You're not getting.
I appreciate it, but I think I'm pretty well stocked on Wardens.
I think you're just fine. I gave one away on Smashbox, and I think whoever ended up with it needed it a lot more than you did.
I think so too.
Okay, so you're the team manager. How about just very simple, Robert the Boss McCall?
I can accept that. This is kind of strange, but when Paige Pierce and I will text back and forth a lot of times, I try to encourage our players before each round of whatever tournament they're playing. If I know they're going to be at an NT or a Pro Tour or Worlds or something like that, I'll try and just shoot them a quick note. Hey, do this today. Think about this. You're going to kill it. Just general encouragement, stuff like that.
That's
and
awesome.
Paige will sometimes respond, "Thanks, boss," which is kind of crazy, but it's like.
I mean, it's kind of
cool.
It's kind of accurate. I mean, you're the manager of the team. They're on the team. I mean, I think it works. The only issue there is that obviously
that Rusco's the actual boss.
The disc. Well, and also that there's a disc out there that's the boss.
That's true.
So it might kind of throw you off a little bit.
That's true.
And Rusco's he's almost beyond the boss, though. He's the origin story. He's the pinnacle of it.
Yeah.
All right, here's another one. Robert Chelsea Blue McCall.
Hey, there you go.
That's not bad.
Man, I used to be able to keep up with Chelsea so much more, and then we have gotten here and gotten busy, and I just haven't been able to watch a whole lot of it.
Yeah,
But
mostly how I stay in touch with it is I record the highlight shows. It's like a match of the week or whatever, or match of the day. I forget which one is which. One is an actual like recap of one game, and one is like all the goals and major highlights from every game of the weekend. I pretty much watch that, and if I'm home on a weekend or whatever and the game's on, I'll throw it on, or it automatically DVRs any Chelsea games that pop in. I'll try to watch through them. Sometimes I'll just jump through 5 minutes at a time, and if I see a goal pop up, I'll rewind and then watch it.
I respect that, man. No, I miss playing soccer. That was my life growing up.
Yeah.
Up until the first knee surgery I had, I was 21 when that happened. And I mean, soccer was it. That's what I did all the time, and I loved it. I still obviously love it, but just don't play as much.
Yeah, I never played on teams or anything like that. I wasn't really like athletic as a kid, but as I got older, it's kind of weird too because my dad, in his day, was a total stud athlete, like 3-sport athlete. And my brother was always really talented at athletic stuff. And like I've since learned that I actually am relatively athletic. It's just now I was just more interested in playing G.I. Joes and stuff, I guess, when I was a kid. I was much more internal and just like kind of inside and whatever. We played like touch football and basketball plenty growing up, but soccer was just never anything that was on my radar as a kid. And then my friends started making me play FIFA with them on like PlayStation or something. And I remember just like really enjoying that, and then I started watching it, and then I started really getting into it. And before disc golf, that was like my thing. I was super into it. I was just like, I never played in a team, but I would always have a ball with me, and I'd just be like kicking it against a wall, or I'd just juggle it or whatever, just always looking for people to kick it around with. Well, you know what's really fun that you might actually find time for is, have you ever played soccer tennis?
Yes, I have. Not recently, but quite a bit, in college and high school, things like that.
Nice. Yeah. We have like our own rules for it that we made up, and I didn't realize there was an actual game involved in it when we did it, but we'll basically like I'll bounce the ball and then kick it off of the half volley over to serve it, and then we basically play once it goes over the net, it can bounce one time, and then however many touches it takes you to return it, as long as it stays up in the air, is fine. So we'll get these wild volleys where, you'll get 2 or 3, 4 touches on it, and somebody else will grab it from behind you, or, it's really fun. We've had some really, really great games with that, which I miss playing that. That was a lot of fun, but disc golf's
I dig that. That's awesome.
Kind of taken over for me. Well, I think that's about all I really had for you. I feel like I picked your brain enough on all this kind of stuff. You have any parting shots, any shout outs or anything like that you want me to give you time for?
You know what? I'm gonna shout out my sweet wife Shay, who is being kind enough to let me stay up well past my bedtime because I'm getting old. But no, she's super cool, and like that's when we moved here in February. Really, the only reason that it worked is because she was willing to put aside like her job that she was working at the time, and just kind of step out with me on faith that it would be okay here. And that's really the reason that we're here, and the reason that things are going well is she's a freaking winner. So
nice.
Yeah, she is super cool, and
you guys are happy there overall. It's been a good adjustment.
Man. I'll tell you, like, this is what I've told people before, and I think I said this on Smashbox last night, but, like, I thought I was going to really enjoy the job, and I thought we would just have to tolerate Kansas. Like, it would just, I'd been up here for Glassblown, and that was about it. And I thought we would just think it was okay. And honestly, it's been way better than that. Both of our families live in Texas, so that sucks being quite a ways away from them. And then the other downfall is we don't have Chick-fil-A here, we don't have Torchy's here. Those hurt.
We just got Chick-fil-A in Portland last year.
Jealous.
The first 2 months there was like a line out the door for like an hour. It was hilarious. For the first several weeks straight, at all times there was a huge line. It was hilarious.
Oh, totally. Yeah, we just got back from the Pocono Raceway event, and we flew into Wichita, and there's a Chick-fil-A right there in the airport. And I mean, it was like 11:15, 11:30. You better believe that was our lunch stop for the day. So that was good. Yeah. But yeah, dude, man, things have been really great here. Just a lot more time to do the things that we want to. and yeah, things are good. So, yeah, man, things are good. I appreciate your continued support of the show and getting to chat with you some. This has been really cool.
Man,
you plan
absolutely.
on making it to GBO any of these years?
I would really like to. If I was going to do any kind of disc golf travel thing, Smuggler's Notch for Worlds next year is probably the top of my list, although probably not financially viable for me, unfortunately.
Sure.
But yeah, right next to that, I have a few things that are on my like disc golf bucket list kind of thing that I want to like. I really want to go to Sandy Point. It looks really awesome. I really want to go to Maple Hill. That would just be a dream come true to watch that event and then just be able to play the course and stuff. And GBO absolutely up there as well. That would be really cool. That would be very cool. I'd really like to go check that out and just to be part of the whole experience there. It would be really cool. One other question for you, because I keep forgetting about this. When is the Grow Disc Golf Day? Do you know the date for that?
We actually just spent some time talking about this, and so we're going to do something a little bit different with it this year. We are going to spend a week or two kind of just talking about ways that you can, make a Grow Disc Golf Day in your area.
Okay.
And then really say that the day that we're going to choose is October 7th. That's what we've got set up for Emporia State University. We're doing a halftime thing for them and some tailgating and things like that. But the day that we're doing is October 7th. But what day do you want to make your Grow Disc Golf Day? And so just kind of getting people excited about whatever day you're able to make it, even if it's not the same one as us, you can do something that grows the sport and that helps people to understand why we care about it so much. And so, yeah, I think that's going to be really cool.
I was thinking about it today. I was listening back to some old Disc Golf Answer Man episodes at work today, as I frequently do, podcasting while I'm going about my business in the morning and getting things going. Works out really well. And I realized like how many people thank you guys for like, thanks for everything you do for the sport and for helping to grow the sport and that sort of thing. And I feel like that's a really unique thing. Like you don't really see anybody like thanking a football player for helping to grow, and not that those other sports need that, but I just think that says a lot about disc golf and like how we operate as a community, that people are actually, that's how they, that's what we think of. It's like, we're in this together to try to build this thing, and we're appreciative of people who put the effort in to try to make it happen. And I think that's really awesome. It's just a cool thing that we're at a good level too, where it's like we're growing and we're starting to get more exposure, and but we're still like pretty intimate too. We're still like tight knit to some degree, and it's not hard to like get access to your favorite players in one way or another and meet them and hang out, and like you don't have to pay anything to go watch the events. Like all that kind of stuff is just really, really cool. It's interesting to see where it will go in the future, but it's also just kind of cool just to be in the moment with it.
I agree, and it's exactly like you said. We are in a good spot, and when we talk about growing disc golf, it's not just a slogan that we have. It's what we really care about doing.
Sure.
And yeah, so the stuff like Grow Disc Golf Day and Junior Worlds and things like that, that's not because we think it'll look good and then people will be like, wow, you guys are doing good stuff. It's because that's what we really care about. And so that's been a really cool thing to get to be on this side of, and get to plan and enjoy and things like that.
Right on. All right.
Yes,
on that note, I'm going to let you go. Thanks again so much for being part of the show. Appreciate all that you guys do over there. Give my love to the whole crew over there. I'm sure I will bug Anthony soon enough to get me sent out some more DD plastic to test and review. I'm super digging the Trooper bag, by the way. That thing is pretty awesome for the money.
Super cool. Yeah.
I genuinely just straight up like it. I like the size of it. It holds all the discs I need, and I think I'm going to rock it for a while. It's just a solid little bag. But I appreciate you guys supporting me and just giving me some time to sit down and shoot the breeze with you. I definitely appreciate it. I'll let you go.
You got it, man. Good talking with you.
All right, brother.